Sponsors Side A Brewing, Cold Coffee Media, and Eastern Oregon University. Yeah, thank you. So tonight we have Jeff Cruz. Jeff has been started out at Eastern Oregon University, had a very successful career, doing something completely different than I'm sure he thought he was going to do when he was in school, and I think he's done an awesome job, and we're here, as always, to learn about, or to learn from somebody else's entrepreneurial journey. So thank you for your time, Jeff, and for agreeing to share your experiences with us.
Well, thanks. I'm trying to think of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Now for something you'll really enjoy. There's probably only two people in the room who know who Rocky and Bullwinkle are, right? Right. Oh, right. Oh, okay. All right. Well, very good. Oh, right. Exactly. The professor and Marianne. Make sure I'm... Okay, so I'm going to share basis of this presentation is a presentation I gave to the Oregon Broadband Advisory Council at one of their meetings where they asked us to speak about what our company's been doing to bridge the digital divide. And I had a lot of material that was in here that I thought was applicable to what Wilson was looking for. And I'll take you on a little bit of a journey to learn a little bit about who we are and what we do. Whoops, too far. First it was too sensitive, and now it's not enough. So I'm Jeff Cruz. I came to Eastern. I grew up in Pendleton, and I went to Blue Mountain Community College. We called that Tumbleweed Tech. We called that Harvard on the Hill. We called it Blue U. I think actually they use that in their branding now as Blue U. But anyway, I was there for a year, and then I actually stepped away for a couple of years to serve a mission for our church in Detroit, Michigan, and then came back, and I found out later that you don't just go to school for 2 years. There's actually a checklist, and you're actually supposed to take classes. So all my underwater BB stacking classes didn't count, and so I did the 2-year program at 3 in BMCC. And then I transferred over to Eastern, and while I was at Eastern, I met a student up in the old Pierce computer lab that was communicating with people in Texas, and I'm like, who's paying the long distance bill for this? I was like, this is crazy, and this was my first introduction to the internet, and it was all text on the screen. There was no pictures. It was all arcane commands, and it wasn't what you see today. But and Eastern didn't have dial-up internet or anything like that. Unless you were on campus, you really didn't have access to the internet. And so I worked with someone on campus. I used to do things like print the grade mailers at night, and you don't even know what paper grade mailers even are because you get your grades online, right? Nobody even gets them on paper anymore. But we used to print all the stuff on the wide 13-inch green bar paper that you've only seen in movies that involve Russians and missiles, probably. So anyway, but we decided, another student and I thought that it was a good idea to figure out a way for the general public to be able to get access to the global internet. And it was a new and emerging thing. Unless you were in research or government, you really didn't have access to the internet. So we never could ever figure out how to get the funding to do this. Bankers couldn't understand what we were doing. They're like, what? I mean, they understand that you buy a can of peas for 50 cents and you sell them for 75 cents, and they understand overhead and margin that goes with that. But they didn't understand that we wanted 50 grand for 2 years in setup and operating expenses for something that they couldn't understand or get their hands around. So it just kind of sat and smoldered for a while. And while I was working in some of my other jobs, I had been fixing computers. I'd been fixing PCs for people with DOS and in high school, and that was what I was using to pay my bills. And later I went on to work for Boise Cascade, Grand Ronde Hospital, and Eastern Oregon State College, now Eastern Oregon University. And I was commenting to someone here that you might find it kind of funny that just as maintaining the I didn't really do much with Eastern's voice network. I worked in the data network, and I was the first actual titled network administrator. The database administrator, Ken Gerard, had been doing all the networking prior to that time, and this was just one other thing that he did. And so when I was hired, one of the other things that I did was that I was supposed to maintain Eastern's website. I was the webmaster, as they called it back in those days. And Eastern's website was something I just did in my spare time. It consisted of like maybe 12 files, like for those of you that can follow me, 11 HTML files and an Eastern logo. That was what the website was basically consisting of. And since then, they've got professionals that do this now. But those were the days. And anyway, so the short story of how we came to start our company, which maybe you guys would appreciate, is that I was working for Grand Run Hospital, and my business partner, my future business partner, I met because he was a physician, and I was supposed to get them connected to the hospital so they could look at patient lab results, order labs, and look at physician's desk reference online, on a 9600 baud dial-up modem. And so when I met him, I got into his office, and I was supposed to connect him, and he had the desk, his computer, he had the top off of it. Does anyone remember the Gateway computers that had the cow, the bovine, black and white boxes? See, only some people, the same Bullwinkle and Rocky people, are the ones that are knocking their head. But anyway, he had his Gateway PC with the lid off of it, and he had 3 hard drives sitting there, and he had Windows 3.1, OS 2, and Windows 95, and he was trying to figure out which one was faster, and I'm like, okay, so I was 20, what was I? I was probably 25, and I said, he's a physician. He must be rich. He has a computer with the lid off. He must be into technology. He must be the guy that's going to be able to help me figure out how to fund this internet service provider that I could never figure out how to get anyone to loan us money for. So I told him and kind of pitched the idea to him, and he didn't say much about it. And a couple months later, he called me back and said he'd found 5 or 6 other partners, and they were going to borrow from Dr. Jim Kopp's retirement account for his employee's pension, or whatever this thing was, and they all pledged notes against this thing. And I was in it for sweat equity. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money at all. So I was married and had a kid, and that was all I had for assets. And so when it came down to it, we got our company started, and we provided dial-up internet access. My original apartment when I moved to La Grande is at 2004 First Street. It's a lot of college students have lived there. You might be one of them. Anyway, and it was a classic story. We had a Micron Pentium 133 megahertz. You don't even know what a Pentium is, because that sounds like something you would take 2 of and call your doctor in the morning. Yeah. So. Right. No one even knows. No one's old enough to know what this stuff is. But anyway, I had this PC and a card table in my apartment, and I was figuring out how we would get people on the internet, and I would figure out how I would bill them and set all this stuff up, and then we wound up getting our company off the ground. So I enjoy being able to be here in La Grande. I've got a wife that I've been married to now for 24 years. We have 4 kids, 2 in the house, 2 out of the house, and we got a dog. My wife and I are really grateful that I have a 10-minute commute on foot from my house to my office, just a couple blocks away, and she's an elementary school teacher, and she has a similar to get from our house up to Central. So I really like my 10-minute commute on foot, and I really like running and just being able to be with my family. So anyway, I was required, nearly constrained by Wilson, to come up with some picture of me when I was at Eastern. I'm like, I don't know why this needs to be, and I had to hunt through my house, and I found this at about 5:15 today. So this is one of my only pictures that I've got. That's me probably wearing a Swatch watch. You don't even know what those are either. But anyway, I don't know if Eastern still has ambassadors. We gave campus tours, and we helped out with a few various things. And anyway, I was one of Eastern's ambassadors, and that was my free blue shirt that I got for being an ambassador. And that's somewhere out in Loso Hall. So anyway, there you go, Wilson. That's the picture. Yes, have I changed a lot? Anyway, so anyway, we started again. We started back in '96. We had 8 dial-up modems. I'll stop dropping in all the technical terms because I can tell it's being lost on you. But anyway, we had a 1.5 megabit internet connection that we spent $4,000 a month for. 1.5 meg, right? Your phone in your pocket does 10 to 30. And it doesn't cost $4,000 a month, I hope. But anyway, that's what we used, and we started out with that, and we set up dial-up modems, and we couldn't add phone lines fast enough. Customers were wanting to get on the internet. Their grandkids, grandparents weren't going to be able to see pictures of their kids unless they got online to see what they were emailing to them. And anyway, we got into some other services, and we developed a broadband wireless network outdoors in Union and Wallowa counties, and then some of this other stuff you won't really care. But basically, I was thinking I didn't really know what you guys were going to care about, but you can skip this slide. If you look me up on LinkedIn, this is all the stuff I copied and pasted from there about what I do. We have 15 full-time employees, about $2.5 million in annual revenue. We're very CapEx intensive. We're constantly having to pour money back into the network to be able to continue to upgrade and make improvements. And all these machines cost lots of money. These machines that bucket trucks and fiber splicing trailers and these things. But we have about 50 fiber customers. We need to get more. We've got about 1,100 customers on fixed wireless. We do some licensed and licensed light equipment. We've been recently working last year with our own LTE network, where we've been able to deliver 70 meg internet through trees, which is a big deal. So wireless internet through trees that doesn't involve a cellular carrier, and it's been working really well. We just expanded and lit up Union this week if people that are living out there and they want something better. So, and then we have about 1,400 voice line customers. We have a subsidiary company that's called Priority One Telecommunications that we don't really market much with that name, but that name is the name of our regulated voice utility that the Oregon PUC requires us to have, so that if we're on poles and working in the public right of way, we have to be what they call a competitive local exchange carrier, or CLEC. So that's what that company name is. And other things that we do, we have a ton of nonprofits that we provide free services to in La Grande for various things. And sometimes nonprofit means 501c3 for you business majors. Sometimes that just means that expenses exceed income. So anyway, so we do basically three things: high-speed internet, we do voice, and we do business phone systems. And we spent some time doing a really careful strategic analysis of our company. If any of you want to note a book title that I would highly recommend, it's Traction by Gino Wickman. And they did another follow-on book that's more like a business fable that's called Get a Grip. They were written quite a while back, and they aren't telling you anything really new there, but they really helped us to be able to focus and figure out some things that we wanted to do. We used to have a full computer store, and we used to do managed IT services for lots of businesses around the area, maintaining servers and workstations and wide area networks and a lot of sophisticated things, and we figured out that we needed to focus more. And we figured out that after like 12 years of doing that business, we decided that we needed to get out of it. And it's been a good thing. We haven't looked back. We don't look back with any remorse. And it's when you're really sure, you just need to pull the trigger and go. And so the three things that make our company really unique are our local people. The people that work in our company, our team, our local people, they really make the difference. And also, our network is unique in that where it serves and what it does, and how economically we're able to deploy that versus what large companies do. And finally, our local contribution, the things that we do in our communities and the difference that we make. And when our customers call up from Imnaha, we know where they are. And so our primary service area is Union, Baker, and Wallowa counties. Here's a quick map. Courtesy of Google Earth, and you can see our basic service area that covers the Tri-County area, and this should all be somewhat familiar to you. And some things that we do that we have to deal with what we do, we've got things like squirrels that chew through armored cables. We have 5 of us that get on an airplane to go to a training session, and we get on the ground, and our phones all light up, and it's like, yeah, squirrel chewed through the fiber, and half our town is down. Sweet. Who's getting back on the plane? How are we going to fix this? Who can do this? Stuff that you just don't plan on. We have snowstorms that close roads, either paved roads or mountain roads that we deal with. Lightning strikes, wind damage, just you name it. Even some of you that have looked in the windows of our place, and let me know, and we can have a tour if you guys want to come by sometime. We've got vehicles with tracks that move through these locations, and tracked vehicles still get stuck. I've had times where we spent 7 days trying to get to one of our microwave sites on top of Mount Fanny above Cove, if you know where Cove is, and we could not get through there because we kept getting 6 to 8 inches of new snow every day that year. And so we would bust a trail with snowmobiles, and it would get filled in the next day. We had people getting stuck, people getting machines breaking down. It was just a total mess. And at one point, we got as far as we could go, and I pulled out my snowshoes, and I literally walked 2 miles to get where we hadn't been able to get for 7 days because we just had to get there. People in North Powder, our customers have been down for 7 days. It was right before Christmas. And we know people need to be able to communicate, Skype on Christmas, buy presents, and it was just like nuts. We're taking their money for broadband, and we couldn't make it work. But finally, on the 24th of July, or 24th of December, my business partner and our lead mechanical guy went down to down near Ontario or Nissa, and they picked us up a snowcat. And the next time we got up there, or the next day we went after Christmas, we drove right in, fixed our problem, and we were done. So it takes a while sometimes for us to figure out what equipment we need, but backup power, remote controls, all that kind of stuff, really works. But we've learned a lot of things. A lot of people do a lot of bad things. Drunk people in Joseph shoot poles and break fiber. At the Chief Joseph days, impaired drivers in the same county have a tendency to hit poles when they're drunk, and backhoes dig up fiber too. And those white locate lines, kids, call 811 before you dig. So, and trying to figure out how to get permission to go across people's land for us to be able to install our network, trying to deal with the decisions that the federal government makes with the FCC about spectrum policy. There's only so much spectrum that exists, and it's always a fight, and everybody in the country is fighting for it. Commercial, public safety, nonprofits, schools, everybody's fighting for a piece of that spectrum. And just trying to work out all the various regulatory things that can come to us. A lot of things that we've learned that it's really important for us to keep spare parts in our business. Get really good at processes. Get really good at standardization. Don't do it different every time. Your first 3 customers, you have to wing it. But your next 30 customers, you better have a plan. And your next 100 customers, you ought to know by then how to do this, and you need to build replicatable processes. And I recommend to you, when you're starting your business, write some things down and make some plans and be consistent. And when you use checklists, you have more success and you're more professional. Boeing did a test flight out of the Midwest. They had one of their fanciest, coolest planes, and that plane they'd worked on for years, and they went and did on its first test flight, and it crashed and burned. And they didn't have a checklist in those days for flight. And now you watch pilots, they've got long checklists they go through, and they make sure everything is right. Physicians used to wing it with patients and procedures, like putting in a catheter or, doing kidney work on people, like dialysis, and they would do some of these things and they would just wing it. They found there was a lot of infection with patients, and then they started building checklists. And just so in your business, you build checklists, processes, systems, and it's a pain in the backside to do that stuff at first. But as you learn, you figure out what's the best way to get something done, and then you hope that your team does it too, because you can't touch everything. You can't be to every customer. You can't do everything. So I highly recommend figuring out ways to standardize your processes, and so that they're reproducible and you get consistent results. You don't have to wonder if your employee is going to install it this way, that way, or the other way. They should be doing it the way that you've all worked together to develop. We've developed some things with being able to get partners for some mutual aid. We help out other companies, and other companies help out us. It's been really good. We've got some really bright people that help us to develop some really awesome software and code internally so that we can build things that we can't do otherwise. But documentation, procedures, being proactive, and having and figuring out how to get the right tool for the job has really made a difference for us. So I've got a few pictures of us in action, and then we'll go into some questions. So let's see. This is Resort Street in Baker City. They decided on that street that they were going to rebuild that whole street, and all the utilities were going to go underground. And this is going to be our only chance for on a 5-year moratorium that we're going to be able to put any conduit in the ground. So that's a spool of conduit that we're going to put fiber cable in later. And that's a close-up of that as it gets put in someone's building. If you guys know where Washington and Fur, that would be right outside the Sac Annex. That was one of our first fiber splicing jobs where we were putting up some of our first cable. I had people coming up to that little splicing tent wanting us to sell them lemonade. I don't know what they thought we were doing. This is Ren out on that same project, and this is one of our first splicing projects, but he had worked for some other companies, and he works for us now. He was a contractor for us then. This is my son. That's about 6 years ago, and he came down on a Saturday and helped me splice fiber in the basement of the SAC when we were getting that building connected, and that's his enthusiastic face that we were done. He said, "Dad, this is really tedious. Do people do this all day long, fusing glass things the size of a human hair together?" And I said, "Yes, they do. This is just one of the things we do on the side." But that's an example of what that looks like inside there. That's 100, and there's 12 ribbons with 12 fibers in each one of them, and there's 144 fiber optic cables wound up inside there. And then we peeled off, Actually, that looks like we spliced the whole thing through. So looks like we brought 2 of those cables together. Anyway, that's our fiber splicing trailer up by law enforcement right across from Eastern. And that was just some work we were doing in there, and just an example of all the stuff we need to be able to do this splicing work. There's Ren again inside, and that's an example of, that's just for us to get out there and work in that splice case and splice in 12 fibers. That's all the goop that we've got to have to be able to get that done. And that trailer gives us a clean environment for us to be able to work in.
What is the checklist?
The checklist for that actually is right there. Nice. Caught me. I think that's what it was. I know if it wasn't there, I have a computer that's off screen where we had the written process, and we actually were revising it on the fly. And yep, that's it, because that's the pencil. So anyway, and then out in Union, we built our own communications tower because there wasn't one. So just below all the cell towers that are there, and actually you can see the water tank for Union right there. And we're up on, and there's my business partner, Kelly. Kelly's actually an internist. He's a physician, and he left after a few years from his private practice, and he works with me full time, and he's, as you can see, very hands-on. And so he's drilling to be able to put some anchors in at Mount Fanny so that we can be able to maintain some of our structures up there in the wind. That's more of the work up there. That's a roughly 4-foot dish that's pointed to Spout Springs. Do you guys know where Spout Springs is? Over by Weston, Athena, up that mountain, up by Jubilee Lake. That's where that's pointed to. So people see that and they think that that's the ultimate vehicle that can get anywhere. And I thought so too. But that thing's been stuck. And then we learned that the smart guys have differential air lockers in the front and back so they don't get stuck. And now we've added those and it hasn't gotten stuck since, but it's gotten close. And, you know, doing things like that to be able to get where we need to go. There's not quite enough snow there to get our snowcat out, but this is our bucket truck and our snowcat, and Eric's there getting ready to go on a mission with me. And this is out in, trying to think, Dennis, you live out in Cove? Not anymore, okay. So this is Mill Creek, and the powerhouse is right over there. And so that's right up out of Cove, and this is our standard turnaround spot. We're also having to work in the dark because we're in limited hours in the wintertime, and that's when we're up at the top. That's Eric driving the cat. That's an example of a road. Where's the road? And tell me how you get your car through there or your really cool pickup. It's just not there, and it's really hard to even tell where you're supposed to go on that road, and it's actually right through here. And so then sometimes we're going along up there on these missions, and we have to take everything with us. So even though we've got this tracked vehicle that can go all over the place, if there's trees on both sides and a tree down, you've got to get out and cut the tree and knock it down, and then you keep going. And that's kind of what some of those sites look like. Our snowcat is like clear down at the bottom of this hill, and we have to climb up this, working through this and carrying 100 pounds or more of equipment in each trip on each guy to try to get up here and get past this point to be able to get some of our work done. And but there's some beautiful vistas up there, as you can see. That's you guys know Mount Emily? That's what she looks like when you're higher than she is. And there's a snow marker up there that we always take pictures of when we go by because everyone wants to know how much snow there is, and that's the settled snow. But we have to do some things to clear some things up sometimes and inspect equipment, and we got to work on it in all weather. And we just need whatever it takes to be able to get it done. My business partner snapped a picture of me when I was working on a cable up there, and we also learned that nylon zip ties are at 10 degrees are break. So you have to put them in your mouth and warm them up, you know. Otherwise, the little plastic teeth on your zip tie, they just pop right out in the cold. But that's Kelly again, snowshoeing up there, and we're figuring out how to use rope to drag that up with a pulley and come along up the hill. And there we are without any safety equipment on. And other things that we do, we also do hosted phones. So we provide phones for business so that they can be able to have modern communications, and we can build some custom solutions for them. We did a crazy thing where we'd been leasing a building for 20 years and decided to buy one. And then how do you go take your data center and 911 and voice and all this kind of stuff and shut it down and put it in a box? Well, over 3 weeks between midnight and 6 a.m., we cut bolts and wires and did this crazy thing. And these guys tore it apart and took it down the hall, threw it into a U-Haul. We drove down Adams 3 blocks with the door up. Yeah, don't they look excited? And then they're putting it back together again. And we had to do this over 3 weeks because our customers wouldn't have been able to handle an outage that lasted 24 hours. And that's how it looks today. And there's David looking cool in our new garage. And it looks like an eBay auction just spit up and died all over the floor, doesn't it? Anyway. But some recent things that we've done, we built 100 miles of licensed microwave into Wallowa County because Frontier was out of capacity. So we built our own microwave route that goes through Spout Springs that you saw in some of those pictures and goes up to Sheep Ridge and down into Enterprise we serve our customers with. We did that move. We got out of IT. We had been on the Elgin grain elevator for about 12 years. And the grain company was needing to sell some assets off. And so we wound up buying the Elgin grain elevator. Didn't know I needed one. If any of you want to start a business with an indoor vertical climbing gym, I'm thinking that we've got potential of being able. I've got 6 70-foot silos that are wood that have been able to hold grain. I have a covenant that I signed that I can't use it as a grain storage facility, but that doesn't mean we couldn't do some indoor climbing gym and build. You guys ever been to one of those? Oh, Eastern has a wall, but think how cool it would be if it was all the way around you. Anyway. That's an idea, but I haven't gotten any farther than that. I'm thinking that I have to have some special insurance for people who don't do the right thing. But then actually in Elgin we wound up, pardon? Bubble suits. Yeah, that sounds like something someone else should develop. I don't think you could get waivers long enough to cover a bubble suit fall. And then, so anyway, we have this monster building out there, and we have rail access. I don't know what to do with that yet. But we also acquired the Elgin cable system that was used for TV, and we've turned it into a broadband network to deliver high-speed internet access over cable in Elgin and delivering faster speeds than they've ever had before. So people have really been able to enjoy being able to go above DSL speeds in Elgin, and we're continuing to roll that out. We have been building our own LTE network for the last year, and we've been able to deliver 70 meg internet over LTE through trees, again at low power, and it works really well. We're continuing to build more fiber, and we're expected to have over 200 phones on our hosted voice platform by the end of this quarter. So anyway, how do we get it done? All of our people are local. Everybody's right here. We train our own people, and Jim in our office that works in our support department, he wrote on the whiteboard in the support department, "They're not our customers, they're our neighbors." You know, and it really makes a difference when you're able to connect with who these people are. You see people in the grocery store and they ask you questions and they want to talk about their needs, and this is what we get in a small community. And we really work hard to try to be able to support our customers and especially youth programs. If people come to us and they're talking about things that involve young people, we generally fall for most of their proposals. And anyway, we also really have worked on our own technology so that we can meet people where they are. Now, when we want to inquire with customers for scheduling or following up to see if we've got their service working right, we actually have texting integrated into our case management system, so we can send text to people and have them reply, and it flows right into our notes, and it's really awesome. And we constantly have opportunities for us to learn. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to take one of my business cards. Yep, and you can call me anytime, and I'm happy to help you with your project. And if you want to talk about some ideas that you have for your business, remember, free advice. You get what you pay for. Your actual mileage may vary. See store for details. Some restrictions may apply and not available in all areas. Questions? Go ahead.
The average person has no idea what it is to run a business. Well, even I don't know what you guys have to do. But did you just think of anything that you get a service or a product from someone, there's a whole mass behind that you never even see. So we shouldn't really squabble at the price.
Right. Just so I can, for the purposes of those that are catching this recording. So what you're saying, Dennis, is that most people have no idea what goes behind a business, what all it takes to deliver the product or service that you see that's presented to you, and all the work that goes into it, and all that it happens. And I'm so excited, and I rub my hands together with you for you to be able to have your own business, and for you to work long hours that you don't get paid for. And, there's this crazy thing that I kind of blew. Is Steve Clements still work at Eastern? Okay. I kind of blew his mind. I'm like, what do you guys teach in business sometimes? And I said, the taxes kill me sometimes. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm like, corporations don't pay taxes. I'm like, what? Okay, so we're an S corporation. Probably have learned some about that in some of your stuff. So an S corporation means that all of the tax liability falls through to the shareholders. So my business partner has 50% share and I have 50% share. So here's some quick math for you. Let's say you take out a loan for $100,000 and you pay back that $100,000 loan. Did you know that $100,000 is called income? And so then I'm taxed, my business partner will be taxed on $50,000 in income, I'll be taxed on $50,000 in income, and I have to explain to my wife, we never had the 50 G's in our hand, but we're taxed on it. And so, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, and all the different things that you have to deal with insurance, and trying to figure out how to do the right thing by your employees. And and being able to cover all the different crazy expenses that come up, and all the different government requirements. And I have no idea what you have to deal with in food, Dennis. But but there's all kinds of things that come up. And just so you know too, like when it comes to like federal requirements, the federal government, if they want to pass a new rule or law that you're accountable for, they publish it in something called the Federal Register. And I think that they expect that mere mortals read that. That's written in legalese, fine print, tons of pages, and you're supposed to know it's there, and you're accountable, that it's federal law. So, isn't that cool? Anyway, you got all these great opportunities though, but you do your very best. Sometimes in business, you're looking at forgiveness versus permission. You try and do your best, you move forward, and you try to, put your best foot forward and do what you can. Other questions? Go ahead. Well, so just to restate what you said, so when our company started out, actually that was the crazy exploding growth period. When our company started out, we really didn't have any competitors, and we really kind of wrote all the rules. There wasn't anybody to compete with, so we were the only game in town in a lot of ways. And so it was like, you don't like it? Too bad. But when the world got more competitive and there were more options, and it wasn't just small companies like us that were competing with each other. We had 800-pound gorillas that landed and said, "Hi, we're Charter. Hi, we're Frontier. Hi, we're CenturyLink." And they've got departments that are bigger than our whole company that are planning on how to squish us. That handle all their regulatory stuff, or how they handle some of those kind of things. So back to your question of, how do you deal with the going through the growth phase, and how do you deal with those kind of things? What motivated me to keep moving through the growth phase is I wanted to win the game. It was just simple. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and time into this, and we just wanted it to succeed. And I think we were very driven. My business partner, being a physician, he doesn't want to lose a patient on a table. He doesn't want to miss a diagnosis. He wants to win. And I didn't know I had that in me either, but you find it. And when it's your time and money and your family, and your house that's in Hawk, you figure out some way to get it done. If you don't, you get squished. So, life isn't fair. So you got to be ready. Go ahead. Best general advice that I would give to someone that's starting a business? Well, I can't fit it into one thing. I will tell you something really smart that I learned from a guy that doesn't live in LeGrand anymore, but my first broker told me that if you're going to have a partner, like you're going to do something with someone else, this is golden. When that you need to write it down while you're both smiling. Because when you decide that both of you aren't smiling, you'll each remember it differently. No, that's not how it was supposed to be. And so if you're making a deal, you're getting you're working something out, you're going to have an agreement with your landlord or whatever to have some space. I didn't have any problems with any of these, but I've run into other people that have had these kind of problems. Don't just do everything verbal. Try to get at least written down on at least a page. I don't need to have, immense bureaucracy, and you can do some stuff on a handshake, but yeah, write it down while you're both smiling. Other advice would be that never stop learning. You're not the smartest guy in the room or gal in the room. There's always people that you can learn from. In your business, you won't know which way is up for the first couple of years. And so many businesses fail in the first 2 to 4 years, I think. They go so long, and then they just can't get past it anymore. But I had other business partners, and we had lots of people being motivated to get us along. But thinking about that, if you in your line of business, there's trade shows, or there's organizations or meetings where you can get around other people that are like you, that are doing a similar business. Go and learn from them, and go to their shows. And even if you don't buy anything, just look around and just see, what am I competing with? What are my other competitors dealing with? And the other thing is find somebody that's not one of your competitors, and you talk to them once every week or two, and just help each other. I've got a guy that I started doing this with that was in Hood River a number of years ago, and we talk. We don't talk as often as we used to, but we would talk about problems. We were in the same business. I'm not a competitor to him. He's not a competitor to me. You've probably driven down the gorge and seen GorgeNet. Those guys, yeah, we're close with them, and we talk about our problems, and we can share. And same kind of challenges they have, we have too. And how do you solve that? And those kind of things are great. And whether that person is in whether they're in Ohio or whether they're in Florida, this is a modern world. You can see them, talk to them, you can share files, you can talk over things, and you can get things done. So networking with other people like you, I think is really good, because you can't know it all. So you need to learn from people who have been there. The old Badgley Hall, if I remember right, the old Badgley Hall used to have a sign, one of those really cool signs on the wall, and I think it said, "If I saw farther today, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants." And it was a cool quote. Hair standing up right now, just thinking about it. But there's always people that go before us, and you can learn from them. And often they want to share with you. They don't want to see you do the same mistakes, but you'll screw up. You'll have a stupid tax you'll pay, because you'll do dumb things, and you'll throw money away, and you'll buy a piece of equipment and you'll drop it. Oh, that happened. So. Other questions? Did I hit it for you? Yeah, okay.
What's the biggest challenge you faced when you started? And how did you overcome it?
Well, I think our biggest challenge when we started and our biggest challenge now is different. Our biggest challenge when we started was probably, I think that we didn't know what we were doing. We had to figure a lot of things out, and we didn't know what we didn't know. I'd probably say today, one of our biggest challenges is that with 4% unemployment, everybody who's working is working. We can't find people to work. So we have positions that go unfilled because we just can't find people. And we're not alone in that. The local accountants can't find accountants. The local manufacturers can't get people to apply for jobs. It's really tough. It's really, really tough right now. And as scary as it is, I feel like we need a financial thing to shake it up so we can get some people who want to work. But we're kind of stuck right now because it's been a long time since our unemployment rate in this country has been this low. So it's just really hard to find people. So all we can do is steal people. We can just poach people from other companies. There's nobody new. There's no one standing there saying, I want to come to work.
How do you feel about hiring students?
It's great. We've hired students before. It's good. It works. And you don't have to, my business partner and I say, you don't have to be crazy to work with us. We can train you to be crazy. So, and honestly, I don't even think I need technical people. We really don't need technical people because we can train that into you. And And I think that if you can show up without excuses, and you can follow procedures and communicate and do the right thing by the customer. I mean, our core values that we have for our customer, for our company are, would be that does the right thing, excels at communication, is confident yet humble. But some of these things that I would say that are so important are just permission to play things. I mean, like, you need to be honest and you need to be able to show up and don't lie to me. And we're good. We can train all the technical stuff into you. And but it's so hard to find people who want to follow procedure and think and be consistent. They just kind of want to paint with their own rainbow, with their own crayon, and it's hard, and it's really tough. It's a mean world, but I can be patient for a while. But and like any business owner, I mean, I don't really, I want to understand you, but your drama can't come to work. When you're there, I need you to be there.
You have a partner.
Yes.
Is it 50-50?
Yes.
And when there's disagreement, since it's 50-50, how do you work it out?
So the question was, we have a partnership. I have 50% share. My business partner has 50% share. When there's a conflict, how do we work it out? After 22 years, we're near clairvoyant. He knows what I'm thinking, and I generally know what he's thinking. We don't have as many disagreements as we did early on. We can have our moments, but we generally get where we need to go. And I'd have to say, when we disagree, probably in 24 hours we've resolved it, and one of us has come around to the way of thinking of the other one. We haven't really had a problem with locking horns like that. It hasn't been too much of a problem. I don't think we'd been able to stay together this long. I think if we were constantly disagreeing, like irreconcilably, we wouldn't have made it 22 years together. One of us would have just left. Almost. Haley was almost two when we started. So, yeah, this guy on the right, Dr. Much.
Does your wife ever get jealous?
No, and I don't really talk a lot about work because I see when my wife comes home, she brings some plastic. She's actually home messing around with some plastic block. I mean, they're plastic blocks to me. No, honey, they're manipulatives. We're teaching children math. I don't know. I don't talk about work, and she doesn't talk much about hers. We keep it pretty general, but no, I don't think she really wants. I think she'd probably go nuts working with me. I don't know. Other questions? Did I hit it? Good questions. Yes.
So, do you always have to take the decision for yourself?
I'm sorry.
You or your partner?
Do we always? So the question is.
Decision by yourself, like just both of you, or any other influence?
So the question is, do we always make all of our decisions by ourselves, or do we get other people's input? Well, sometimes as business owners, we have to be the smartest people in the room, and we have to make the decision because we have to live with the consequences. It's us. At the end of the day, everybody else can jet, but our name is on the bills, and we got to make it happen. But having said that, we usually talk to our own team and ask people where we should go on things. We generally recommend when they have problems with customers or situations, what do you think is the right thing to do? We ask that. You're closer to the customer than I am. What's the right thing to do? What should we have done here? What should we be doing here? Sometimes we can talk to other people in our industry. We're pretty well connected now. Like I said, I can talk to our guys at Gorge. They call us and talk about problems. We talk to things with them. We're also members of some organizations where we get together a few times a year and we work strategically on some things. And so we've got high-level problems that we know how to solve, and then we've got low-level day-to-day problems that some of those are just experience. How many times do you have to put your hand on a hot stove to know that you don't do it? Right? So I think that's why we were given 10 fingers, so that we've got spares. Yes?
So I was kind of wondering, how do you go about building your professional network when you still are fledgling? So like before you've gotten connections to people who might know what to do, how do you build up that network?
So how do you build a professional network and meet people that you can trust and talk to and help you in your business?
Pretty much from scratch.
From scratch. Well, When we started out, there was no LinkedIn. There was Google wasn't even out yet either. I think in those days it was Yahoo and Alta Vista, which you probably don't ever look at either of those either. So, okay, all right. So early on it was tough. We were kind of on an island. Some of our key vendors, we learned a lot from them. I can tell you that early on, because this was pre-Google and the internet there wasn't a lot of content on the internet, I bought a whoopload of books from Powell's in Portland. I bought a lot of technical books, and I would go home and read and figure out how to do email and how to figure out how to build, because I had to build servers that would run email and make it all work. And I used lots of open source software, but I needed to know how to drive it, because free comes with a price. There's no one to call. So you've got to be able to figure it out. And so I know my wife remembers a lot of those kind of things, because we have stacks and stacks of books that just trying to figure things out before there was Google. And then you meet people and you go to different kinds of conferences, and they're all expensive, but you kind of try to figure out what's the one that other people go to, and look at people in your industry. And you don't need to go to 10 conferences a year. There's probably one where you can probably learn and you can meet people, and be willing to open your mouth, be willing to talk. Be willing to be a little uncomfortable, a little vulnerable, and talk to people. Like, that's how I would do it. Does that help?
I think so.
Okay. It's vague, ambiguous.
So there ever been a point in time where you didn't really know if you'd still be in business tomorrow, and how did you turn that around?
Well, that's a really good question. So was there a time that we felt like we wouldn't be around, or that how do you keep going forward when you're not really sure which way to go or where things happen? That's a challenge, and that's been a constant challenge, and we've had to reinvent ourselves as a company and rebuild our network probably 5 or 6 times. And you get to these crossroads and you say, wow, do we want to spend more money on this, or should we spend more money on that? Is that the future, or is that the future? I mean, when we started in dial-up, at one point, I think, at one point across 5 counties, I think we had 500 dial-up lines doing dial-up internet. You guys even remember that? Do you? Okay, well, right, Jib. But I mean, these technologies change, and I was actually pretty sure that 2 years into, we started in February of '96, first customers. We were installing them using floppy disks, 3.5 inches wide, and we had special software, because in those days computers didn't even have the software that they need. So we were having to, be able to hack these people's machines a bit together and add the missing devices drivers to make this stuff run. But anyway, I mean, I was pretty sure that in those days they were launching satellites that were going to be able to be used for phones, and that they were going to do data on it. And I was sure that, honestly, in 2 to 3 years, they were going to figure out how to make satellites transmit and receive faster than dial-up, and it was going to be fast, and it was going to be reliable, and we were going to be dead. And we had maybe total 5 years to ride this pony, and we're gone. And it didn't happen. There's all kinds of orbiting things up there, but they're not fast, and they're not cheap. And I've been kind of amazed. Elon Musk, some of you have seen some of his amazing adventures, building things that fly. Some of them land, some of them blow up. Some of them get in trouble with some of the things that he's done. But he's got some mandate to put up, or some permission to put up 6,000 or 7,000 satellites that are going to orbit the Earth in low orbit and provide internet. I'm like, okay. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with those kind of things. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But how do you keep going forward? How do you keep going on? You just got to keep trying. You got to still believe there's still some more ride in this roller coaster, more gas in this balloon, and we just keep going. But it does get tough. At our age in our company, it is tough, because my business partner is getting older. I don't know how much longer he wants to do it. I don't know that I want to go do it alone. There's a lot of days where I thought, I can do this without you. But, I don't know. Can I? Do I want to? And there's other times where I've got to tell you that I don't know if I'm employable. I don't know if I could work for someone else. I mean, would I drive them nuts? Would I expect too much? Most of the time I'm pretty reliable, and I get there early and I get there late, but sometimes I want to go run a little longer, and I roll into the office at 9 instead of 8. I don't know. I don't know if anyone would hire me, because I might drive them nuts. My wife thinks I know a lot. I think I know a little, but I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Are there other business ventures that you're interested in pursuing?
I'm not sure right now. I don't have any on my horizon. I'm kind of saying the vertical climbing gym tongue in cheek. I think that's probably the closest I've gotten. But But I don't know. I don't have any others on my mind right now. There's been some times where I've thought it'd be fun I really like writing code, and I think it would be nice to be able to make some cool, simple applications to solve people's problems. I mean, I still think with all of the code that's out there and all of the apps, I still think that there's specialized apps that could be still written that could scratch an itch for somebody. Bill Gates, when he was relevant, I don't know if he is to you anymore, but one time he was a pretty big thing, and he actually wrote a few articles for the Sunday paper, kind of like Dear Abby, or something like that. And he didn't write very many of them, but I still believe what he wrote probably 20 years ago is still true, and that if you might not be able to write a new application to do spreadsheets and words. And does anyone even say word processor anymore? People just say Word. Do they just say doc? In your world, they just say it's a doc, right? But no one's going to probably go and outstrip Google on doing sheets and docs, right? That's probably not going to happen. But there still could be somebody out there with some specialized need that you identify that makes it work. And in business, there are certain verticals that you can figure out. And you can figure out how to serve certain groups of people. You might go and you figure out something that left-handed Lithuanians need. And when you fully understand left-handed Lithuanians and you give them everything that they're looking for, then you take all that knowledge and you go and find right-handed Romans and you figure out how to teach and help them and get them what they need and educate those customers and serve their needs. And there can be different kinds of things like that. I know for a while, because of my business partner's experience in medicine, we worked a lot with healthcare people. We knew a lot about things. This is way before HIPAA. There's a lot of things that we understood that healthcare companies needed, or physicians or doctors' offices, and all these different kinds of things. And we knew a lot of things about what they needed. And it was refreshing to them because when they started to open their mouth and talk about their requirements, we could say, yep, we've dealt with that. And they were like, oh, good. I don't have to teach you and bring you along to learn my way. So you can figure out something. I mean, I know a guy that made software specifically for auto dealers to manage their auto dealership. Very narrow. That's a very narrow focus. And they figured out what auto dealers, they weren't happy with big companies like ADP that made software that didn't work for them, and they decided to go and build their own thing. They could do customer relationship management. Do we still say CRM? Okay, I wasn't sure what terms we had been using. But I mean, they were basically doing CRM to manage the whole relationship for like people who buy cars or get their cars serviced, and very narrow kind of things like that. So I still think that there's opportunities for anybody out there if you can just go find an audience that's got an itch that's not been scratched, and you can be the one to do it for them. And another big thing though with customers too is education though. They got to understand you, and they got to understand why you, and that's all part of that process in your business, is that you've got to help them understand why you versus this other thing.
Well, you have Google giving away stuff like Google Drive, but Dropbox built a big company and just went public. And Google gives the stuff away free, but people are willing to pay for Dropbox just because they designed a solution that better fits the need of the client.
Right. So I'm not sure if I can encapsulate all that back to the microphone and the recording, but I mean, yeah, you've got Dropbox that's offering a paid service, and you've got Google that's offering a paid service. You've got Dropbox offering a free service, and you've got Google offering a free service. A lot of companies start and they give you a little bit to get you hooked. They give you, a little bit of free candy until you need the real stuff to be able to get you along. And I think it's a really good model. A lot of customers don't know what they want till they see it. So you want to play with it. You want to splash around with it and figure out if it's something you want before you drop your hard-earned dollars on it. Because, as you know, Wilson, no one loves your money as much as you do. So, yeah, right. Any other questions? Go ahead.
In the next 5 years, what do you see as next?
Like in this industry, in like communications and technology?
And how it will impact?
Well, I think that we'll continue to see sputtering, spinning out of control Internet of Things devices that are insecure, that are still screwing things up. That's still a really young space. I think that there's lots of devices that want to connect to the internet, but they're not really baked. Oh, sorry, Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things is a common term that's been buzzing around for the last couple of years that continues to get more noise. It's about as gets as much noise now as blockchain. Have you heard of Is anyone familiar with that? Oh, put that in your Google scope. Yeah, but look up blockchain. Have you guys heard of Bitcoin? Okay, so Bitcoin is powered by blockchain, the concept of blockchain, where people do hard math to be able to validate transactions and have a decentralized currency. Anyway, but things like blockchain are big. But back to the Internet of Things, let's take it like this. People might have insulin pumps attached to their waist that are helping them to manage their insulin, to help manage diabetes. And some of those things connect to the internet to be able to provide information to the patient as well as maybe to their physician to be able to help them to manage their care. Think of all the sensors that connect to the internet now. That would be the Internet of Things. Your Nest thermostat, you've got burglar alarm systems that connect, locks, door locks, freaks me out, automobiles, all these different kinds of things, tons and tons of sensors, all these different things around your house, your fridge. Why I need a fridge on the internet? I mean, we were looking to buy a washing machine. They told us we could get this washing machine that connects to the internet. Why? I don't know. I'm 49. I'm not sure that I know or care why. When I put my clothes in, I put in dirty clothes. I take clean ones out. I don't need any status in between. I know the washer isn't going to move. It's pretty heavy. It'll be right where I left it. I don't need to know. So I don't know why we need to connect some of these things to the internet. But there's a lot of these devices like web cameras and different kinds of sensors that have a lot of security problems with them. There's some people that have got all kinds of different personal products that connect to the internet and they don't even realize it. And they've got default passwords, cameras that they don't even realize are connected to the internet. And some of these things have really bad software and they're pretty exposed. So I think there's going to be a lot of murky, scary press releases for a while with Internet of Things as they get some maturity with that and get some standards with that. So I think there'll be more and more of those kind of devices. I think that you'll probably continue to see more and more people get rid of their landline. I mean, anybody under 35 has probably never had a landline that they've paid for with their own money. And they don't see the need to have one. And probably most of the people that are under 35 have not paid for subscription TV with satellite or cable, right? You stream it, right? You Hulu it, you Netflix it. You Major League Soccer channel it on your Roku. That's what we want to do. Anyway, I mean, there's just a different shift with things, different ways that people are going with this. But I think you're going to continue to see more streaming TV. I think you're going to see less satellite TV, less cable TV, and streaming is going to continue to go forward. And that's definitely going to be happening. And I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens with things like blockchain and cryptocurrency. There's a lot of interesting applications for that, but I don't know if they can get off the ground. We were joking about blockchain for something the other day and for some transactions related to customers being able to port their phone numbers between companies. Take your cell phone carrier from AT&T to Verizon or to Sprint or something like that. Those kind of transactions people expect to happen fast. But if any of you have played with Bitcoin, you know that a Bitcoin transaction isn't that fast. The Bitcoin money doesn't move for like 20 minutes. So in real time, how many real-time things can do? So, if you're not in a hurry, some of these things can work. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these things with so much traction, I think, where they go. Because there's a lot of great potential, but there's a lot of things that this world, you guys need to know that my grandpa, when I would ask my grandpa about doing things faster, he would say, I said, do you want faster internet for this application? And he says, Jeff, I don't buy green bananas. He's old enough that he doesn't know if he's going to see them turn yellow and sweet. So he wants the banana yellow and sweet and ready to eat right now. Sorry, that joke was lost on you. But anyway, I'm here through Thursday, tip your server. So anyway, I think with that, we'll probably break and I'll linger for questions and I'll get off the stage and that I won't be recorded anymore. Thanks, everybody.